Hello and welcome to Film Seizure. This month on Film Seizure, we will be discussing sci-fi movies. I had seen that Alex Garland, who wrote the movie we'll be discussing, might be retiring from directing and only writing going forward. I'm not sure how true that is, but because of that, I stumbled on to this movie, Sunshine, which I had never seen. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Alex Garland and Danny Boyle, but first we'll talk about Jeff Arbuckle. Hey, Jeff Arbuckle, how are you?
Hey, Chuck Moore, how's it going? I'm doing good.
I don't know what's going on today.
I don't know, man. This is our third or fourth run at trying to start this episode.
Yeah, it's
I have a feeling we're going to talk about a movie today, but I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, we might talk about a movie.
We may talk about speculative science fiction.
Yeah, I don't know. You also heard Jason Oliver. Hi, Jason. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great.
Good. So yeah, Sunshine, 2007. Science fiction movie directed by Danny Boyle, which I mentioned, and written by Alex Garland. As I previously said before, I'd never seen this, which Jeff said is a risky proposition to pick a movie you'd never seen. But given the pedigree of the people involved and the cast, I was like, it's got to be worth a shot, right?
Oh, I think there's a lot to talk about here. I think you did good.
Yeah, I mean, I was very... There's some things I'm confused about in this movie, which we'll talk about later. And it's not even exactly the science necessarily that confuses me. But leaving everything else aside, this is a highly entertaining, well put together, and very nice looking film.
Yeah, done by Fox Searchlight. So, what, now almost 20 years later, if this movie had been made 20 years later, A24 would be releasing it.
Probably,
so,
yeah.
Real nice job on a very small, even though it's a $40 million budget, it's a bunch of small companies putting this together. Chuck, this was your first time seeing it. It's my first time seeing it. Jason, you'd seen it before, right?
Yes, I own this on Blu-ray. I saw this in the theater.
Ooh.
I like this movie quite a bit, but I am also not immune to its flaws. It is one of those kind of movies where it is really, really cinematic and can manipulate you with emotion pretty easily. John Murphy has a way of doing that with his music. Yeah. But it is not a perfect movie.
Yeah.
And every time I watch it, I try to make see if I can stitch it all together perfectly, like a puzzle. But it just doesn't quite work completely. But I still unabashedly adore this movie for warts and all.
Yeah, so I guess we'll go ahead and get that out of the way too, since you brought it up. Generally speaking, I think this is an excellent movie. It's at least an excellent construction of a movie. I do have two nitpicks, and I have a pretty big negative.
Pretty big negative.
Big enough negative to where it's like, if I were to do my grading scale and we start at 100, right? And my nitpicks maybe bring it down to 95. So it's still in the A range, right? But my big negative drops it to a B.
Jeff and his scoring, man.
Hey, you know what?
Only he understands it, but it's something.
Hey, it works. It works. I walk into every movie wanting it to be 100, you know?
So that's the best way to.
Yeah. So it's like you need to, it's like, hopefully you meet that. If you don't, then what do we have? And like I said, I still think that this is a beautiful movie, excellently put together, but I still got to grade it about a B.
I think a B is a totally fair score. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do want to say one weird thing before you talk, Chuck, is when I will put my Blu-ray in, I haven't watched my Blu-ray of this in a long time, 5 to 10 years, somewhere around there. And I guess it couldn't be that long. Could it? Well, yeah, I guess it could, because it was 2007.
2007. Yeah.
But so it's an old Blu-ray. I put it into my PS5 downstairs to watch it. It's a bigger screen, better TV, and after the opening title sequence and the scene where there's lots of characters in this. Kevin Curtis, the psychiatrist, when he's watching the sun and he's trying to see how bright he can watch the sun. When he goes into the mess hall and he's talking with everybody about his experience, this fucking little box pops up in the bottom right corner of my screen, and it's like the bonus interactive feature where it's it's like the behind the scenes telling you about the movie. And for the life of me, I could not turn it off on my PS5. And Susan's just laughing her ass off, watching me get more and more like annoyed with this. And I've got like two remotes trying to do this because I got the PS5 remote and I got the TV remote. And I'm like, maybe I can get to it with this one and not that one. Nothing. There's something in the authoring with that feature that plays by default on a PS5 that you cannot turn off. So I had to take it upstairs and watch it on my other player, which is fine. But it was just like, man, I was like losing my mind of trying to turn this thing off.
Well, I would also like to just say, welcome to old.
Yeah.
So,
Grandpa Wars.
Grandpa Wars. And I had a meltdown yesterday with Bluetooth too. I'm like losing it, man.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I love to see it. As our resident, sometimes anti-old guy.
Yeah. It's the irony is real.
Yes.
And it smells like old people.
Yeah.
The one thing I did want to mention has nothing to do with the movie. It has to do with Jeff's rating. And I hope I never told this story before, but my friend Pat, his dad, when he went to a restaurant, he'd kind of pre-calculate what they were going to spend at the restaurant, and he'd put the tip on the table in dollar bills, and he'd be like, "This is your tip." To the server.
He wasn't one of those ones who he'd take them away, was he?
Yeah, he'd be like, every time you do something wrong, I'm going to take $1 away, and the man would literally slap the pile of bills to let the server know, "Oh, you just lost one."
Oh God,
that would be so obnoxious.
Yeah, I would 100%. I'm pissing in his beer.
Yeah. There is never going to be a meal he receives that doesn't have some sort of foreign substance in it.
Yeah, there's going to be some sort of bodily fluid in it.
Yeah, like what are you even thinking with that bullshit? Yeah.
Yeah, wow. That is the height of
wow.
What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't even know. It's just
I don't
stupid.
know.
It's what it is.
It's like Marie Antoinette or some shit, right? It's like, oh my God, I couldn't do it. I couldn't sit there. I'd have to leave.
Yeah, I'd be like, I'm gonna go sit at the bar.
Yeah. I'm gonna get a table over here, and I'm gonna tip her for every $1 you take off the table.
Yeah,
I'll add $1 for every $1. Jason, you might have been right. Maybe we will talk about a movie.
We might. I don't know.
We might eventually get there. So yeah, Chuck, you explained why you picked this movie.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about what's in the movie.
Oh, what's in the movie? Okay, yeah. So it's the year 2057, and the sun is dying, which obviously is going to kill the Earth, right? And everything that lives on it, or at least all life on Earth, will die. So science develops a plan to bring
Mr. Science, yes,
Mr. Science, Doctor Science,
Doctor, yes.
Science.
They decide to bring a bomb to the sun, and by blowing up the bomb within the sun, it's going to create a new star within that star.
No,
or at least
it will reignite what is being burned off, is what I'm understanding. That's one of my nitpicks. It's a nitpick. I mean, if I were Neil deGrasse Tyson, it would sink the movie from minute one. But,
dude, Neil deGrasse Tyson would have a field day with
oh,
this
his head would explode. Like it
really
would be
would.
like it would be scanners. For me, it's a
That might be
nitpick
actually
because
entertaining to see.
yeah, I know it'd be kind of funny. For me, it's a nitpick only because movie has to go. And come on, let's face it, I've seen crazier shit on Star Trek, and I've certainly seen crazier shit on Doctor Who. So
yeah, I mean, fiction is in the name.
Exactly.
Right? It's fiction.
So,
It's not
I mean,
real.
but like the concept is, it's like from what I understand, it's like when our sun, specifically our class of sun, it will burn through hydrogen, it will then burn through helium, and then if it goes nova, I believe it explodes carbon, which is how that stuff gets to other planets and seeds planets. Basically, that's why we're star stuff, is that carbon got here from another sun that exploded. But
We're only stardust.
we'll talk about Mr. Sagan here in a little while. In a couple
Dr.
weeks.
Science.
Wait,
Literal Dr. Science. Yeah, he's got 3 or 4 doctorates in science. But no, but the idea,
resident proctologist here.
Right,
Low down here.
yeah, Starbutts. But anyway, so that, I mean, whatever. Like I said, I've seen crazier stuff. The sun, we've got like 500 million years before we get to that. And I know that Alex Garland was inspired by learning about the heat death of the universe, which is like probably like 1 trillion years away. But eventually everything that's in the sky will burn out and it will just be a dead universe until it all recompacts and explodes again. So yeah, I mean, we're starting on an iffy premise, but I'm buying it. I'm taking it. Yeah, we got to go blow up. We got to send Mr. Oppenheimer out there with his bomb and blow it the fuck up. And by the way,
we got to Jerry Bruckheimer this shit.
We got to Jerry Bruckheimer this shit with literally Oppenheimer. God damn it, Nolan!
With literally Oppenheimer. Yes,
you
Oppenheimer
fucking
built
hack.
the football stadium-sized bomb that's going to reignite the sun. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Christopher Nolan is a total hack and ripped this movie off. Good job with history.
Oh my gosh.
I think we should take back his Oscar.
Well, it's actually kind of interesting because I bet you some of the research that he did for this role helped him get part of the way there to Oppenheimer later, right? Because
well, they mentioned that it is roughly the size of it's roughly the same mass as that initial nuclear bomb, I think.
But yeah, what I'm saying is that Cillian Murphy and his research for this character studied with physicists and tried to like get in, actually learn real science to get to the place where he could play this character. And yeah, I mean, it could only have paid dividends later when he played Oppenheimer, right? Like he could probably have drawn on some of that at least, or his relationship to really heady science. Yeah.
So it turns out that this ship, which I wish I wrote the name down of,
Icarus 2.
Icarus 2, is the second effort at getting a bomb to the sun.
Yes.
The first one, 7 years prior, something happens to it. We don't know
When
what.
Silent never came back. Yeah.
Yes, when Silent never came back.
Sun still not bright.
Still, yeah. Sun still on dimmer mode.
Right.
It's still cold up in this bitch. What's wrong?
Yes. And given that there's 1 million characters in this movie, not 1 million, but I get confused by the people.
I mean, half of them are in superhero movies, so I'm on board here.
Yes, I mean, it's a great cast. Everyone's really good in it.
It's a crazy good cast, yes.
But we kind of start by seeing Cliff Curtis as Searle. He's the resident doctor. He's in what I guess I would just describe it as the sunroom.
It's the observation deck.
They call it the Earth Room. Oh, wait, no, yes, the observation deck. Yeah,
The observation deck, which is filtered so that they can look out at the sun as they're approaching it.
Yeah.
Well, Searle is reducing the filter so he can get more of the sunlight. Mm-hmm. And it's our first hint that something's weird here because as the sun washes over you, you look almost kind of possessed. right? Like there's almost maybe not possessed, but you're having like an out of body experience as the sun washes over you. So your first kind of hint that there's something amiss, I guess, with the sun.
Yeah, he kind of describes it a little bit later as being in the absence of anything. You're in true darkness. You're in the absence of anything, even in this bright shining light.
Right.
And the darkness becomes you. It's like, man, first time I saw this, I got heavy Event Horizon vibes, and I look at them.
Totally.
Yeah.
They're like all over this movie, but it's kind of like a less goofy Event Horizon in some ways.
It does have a lot in common with Event Horizon, though, now that I think about it.
But it's like the idea of like meeting the abyss and how that affects you, how it affects your mind, how it affects your soul if that thing exists, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So Searle, while he's explaining this, what has happened to him, to the group around the dinner table, kind of like an alien scene.
Yeah, there's little aliens
Very
also.
much so.
Yeah,
This is when the stupid lady in the bottom right corner pops up. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that I also like about this is that the Icarus, like, it looks real. Like it's not perfect. It's not, we're not on board the Enterprise. It's kind of grimy. It's like there's all sorts of like gunk on stuff. It all looks like steel. Well, like just like there are times where it looks at like the steel wall or whatever, and there's like there's just some sort of gunk on it.
So much time to put this thing together.
Yeah, it's functional. It's lived in. It's the Nostromo, right? It's that idea that the only place that is actually serene in the Nostromo is where they sleep. In this, it seems like it's the observation room.
Or the oxygen garden.
The oxygen garden, though, that's very living. So there's like a lot of stuff in there, right?
Yeah,
like
true.
it's like there's bacterias and wetness and green growth and stuff. But like I'm just talking about like, so it's like that's a busy room. So it's like there's very few rooms that are like empty in this place.
Right. They also have the Earth room, which is kind of the Star Trek equivalent of the what do they call it? The
holodeck.
Holodeck. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say that, but I didn't want to be wrong.
No, you would have been right.
Holodeck. You were totally right.
Been right. So yeah, but we find out at that dinner where Searle is explaining that stuff that they are a week ahead of schedule in entering what's called the dead zone, where they won't be able to communicate. I think it's called the dead zone. Whatever.
Yeah, it's the dead zone.
Where they won't be able to communicate back with Earth. So we meet Kappa. Like, he did his thing at the beginning where he talked about, 8 astronauts strapped to the back of a bomb, my bomb. Like, he does the intro and stuff. But we meet him as he's talking to his family, saying, basically, we won't be able to talk to you again. Like, this is the last message you'll get from me. Anything you send to me won't get here in time. But if you wake up someday and the sun is brighter, or it's a little more beautiful than the day before, you'll know we have succeeded.
And I'll see you in a couple of years.
Yes.
Yeah. Which, by the way, that ship is traveling super slow, because if you travel just as fast as like the Apollo missions went, you would get to the sun in 5 months.
Yeah,
so
but you
I don't know if this is
around planets and stuff would
true.
Down, right?
Well, true, potentially. Although I would think that rushing headlong into the sun's gravity well would probably maybe there would be time dilation that could happen. I don't know.
He just says something about time dilation or
yeah. I mean, because that's the other thing. It's like, I don't know if we have any idea how to like truly describe how much fucking gravity you would be dealing with as you get close enough to shoot a bomb into the sun. Right. I mean, that would be there would have to be time dilation.
Yeah, they don't bore us with a lot of sciencey explanations in this movie at all, which I appreciate.
I do too, because this movie is not about the science; it's about the existential crisis of what happens if the one thing that gives us life dies. There's a lot to consider there, and are we even capable of saving ourselves?
Right. Because there's moral dilemmas all over the place.
Oh my God. There's moral dilemmas. There's physical dilemmas. There's ethical. I mean, like it's an awful lot to ask 8 people to be in charge of.
It's basically the trolley problem, but the entire Earth is on the trolley.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm barreling over those fucking people, by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
To kind of put to rest this sort of like, I want to talk a little bit about some other sciencey things that I think they don't think are wrong, that maybe are, but the physicist who was consultant on this movie, to kind of point to what you two were just talking about, says that there were several inaccuracies that were permitted that they knew about just to allow for the plot, right? And he dismisses criticisms of the film by scientists. He says, Sunshine is not a documentary. It's trying to just, in an hour and 40 minutes, get across a feeling of what it's like, not only to be a scientist, but obviously there's much more to it than that. So I found it interesting to watch the kind of people that get upset because the gravity is wrong.
Yeah.
They're kind of
it's not telling that story.
They can't see the forest through the trees. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is all about other things than scientific accuracy. I mean, it would be like somebody complaining about Star Trek again. It's like, oh, well, it wouldn't work that way. I mean, it's like, okay, I mean, sure, yes, it's highly unlikely that you can travel through time by shooting yourself around the sun. The point is what did the characters do to save the future?
The minute you put blue humanoids on another planet is the minute you're saying, look, not all of this is reality. Like, this isn't, like, you're admitting that the science isn't all right because we have no idea. Another important part of this message that Kappa sends is that he takes too long in the room. And he really pisses off Captain America. James Mace is his name in this movie. Mace. He's actually quite good in this movie.
He is. I mean, this shows you how good, like, Chris Evans really is. I mean, like, he's not. Yes, he's mostly known for big popcorn movies.
Right.
He's really good in this, and there's a wonderful kind of rug pull here. You think he's going to be a problem? He isn't. He's actually the most clear thinking one the whole way through.
He's pragmatic.
He's a pure utilitarian. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We've got a mission, and this is what we got to do. I mean,
I got to tell you, I'm like lockstep with him almost every step of the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like the moment he starts saying we can't deviate, there is no it's like, this, you can't fuck with this. It's like, like, we don't know what's going to happen if you deviate off the course. The sun will eat you very quickly.
What's interesting about that, though, is I really do, like, I am with Cillian Murphy in this respect, that it's a 50-50 thing. I don't think anyone's right and anyone's wrong. The circumstances that happen dictate who was right.
Sure.
Right? Like, you have no idea what's going to happen. But
let me set it up.
Yeah, please do.
So what we're talking about is shortly after Mace and Kappa get into it over Kappa taking too much time and Mace not being able to send his last transmission home. They kind of get a fight. The Searle, the ship's doctor and psychological officer, played by Cliff Curtis, by the way, who has also had like a stellar career and still going strong. I'm like, wonderful actor from New Zealand. He talks to Mace, and Mace is like, yeah, I know, I screwed up. It's like, I absolutely understand what I did. It was wrong. It's like, I'm not going to allow it to happen again. I'm back on program. And he gets prescribed 2 hours in the Earth room, to which he watches crashing waves, and he says that to the computer. The computer wants to change it, and he says, no, the crashing waves are what comfort me. I don't want something that you consider peaceful. This is peaceful to me. So anyway, they end up picking up a transmission. And the transmission, they determine, is from Icarus One, because they've just gotten to Mercury. There's a beautiful moment where they all sit in the observation room and they watch Mercury pass by, and it's like one of the probably, I guess, the second kind of spiritual moment in this. Like, there's a very secular humanist element to this movie where it's not necessarily about a god, it's about our tininess in the universe, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah, because you especially see that with how small Mercury is against this gigantic. I mean, like, I think it would blow most people's minds to actually be that close to the thing we only ever see is only about the size of a $50. You know, I mean, like, it would people go crazy, and I understand why. You know, it's like, I mean, already space is scary. You don't know what's out there. You don't know what you might run into, and stars are the power of the, you know, I mean, it's like next to only a black hole. Yeah, and luckily we don't have any of those around right next to us. So, you know, it's like being that close to a sun it will do things psychologically to you.
But they then, after they observe Mercury, they pick up the distress signal, and it's a distress signal from the Icarus One. And they kind of start talking about, how do we even know that is the Icarus One? You know, can we even find it if we do? And they're able to determine that, yes, indeed, it is the Icarus One, and that they do know where it is. And they were very close to achieving their mission. They were almost to the sun when, for whatever reason, they stopped transmitting. It's not until they get to the ship that they get the
that they actually get the last message. Yeah.
So anyway, this sparks the first of many kind of ethical dilemmas. What do we do? Do we go and rescue, and go to the Icarus One for whatever it's worth, and see if the crew is alive, and rescue the crew, or do we just proceed? And Chris Evans, Mace, he's pretty adamant. It's like, I mean, they're not worth it. I mean, you're weighing their lives against the lives of all of humanity. Like, right. There's no reason to go there. And he's pretty much kind of winning that argument until Searle makes a counter argument. And it's honestly a pretty good counter argument, because he says that, it's another payload. There's a whole nother nuclear, or not, like, called a stellar bomb or whatever, over there. And if we could go and see if we could actually take both ships to the sun, and, essentially, like, 2 is better than 1, right?
Have two chances. To succeed.
If the first time doesn't reignite things, then we got the second.
Right. So then someone says, we'll take a vote. I think it might have been Mace. And Kanata, the captain, oh man, Kanata, what a great actor too. Jeff or Chuck, you haven't watched Shogun yet, but he is Shogun in the new Shogun. So good.
Hiroyuki Sanada.
Yeah. He's been in tons of stuff, but
yes.
Awesome. He says, no, it's not. This is not a democracy. He's like, we're a collection of scientists, professionals. We're going to make an informed decision, the best informed decision. And essentially it comes down to Kappa, because he's the one who designed the bomb. He's the physicist. So he has to weigh the odds. And he's like, shit, I don't want to be the one to make this decision.
It's really great when they focus on him and he's like, shit.
Yeah.
But he runs all the numbers, calculations, and he's like, I can run all the tests I want, but once the bomb gets into the gravitational pull of the sun, I can't predict what's going to happen next. It's like predicting what a black hole is going to do, right? It's impossible. The physics, we don't understand them. It's all theoretical from here. So based on that, he's like, it's a coin toss at this point. Is it going to work or not? And 2 coin flips are better than 1. And Kanata kind of smiles. He's like, well, there's our answer. So they decide to divert the ship. Now, what they don't think about is Murphy's fucking law, right? Because diverting the mission, a mission that has been so carefully planned and coursed and mapped, is a really big risk. Really big risk.
Well, there's a lot.
Risk.
I mean, it goes to show you what happens right after that is that everything is programmed perfectly to not burn their shit up.
Yeah, it's been checked and triple checked and quadruple checked by teams of scientists, right?
Right. Now it's down to one man to make the change, and it's Benedict Wong, who is another superhero movie
Marvel guy. Yeah.
I know, it's insane. I mean, we haven't even gotten to Sinestro yet.
Yep.
And he's still out there, but anyway, and it's a lot. It's a lot for one person to do, to remember exactly every single thing that has to happen to divert the course.
He gets all the science right?
Oh, like he gets the science perfectly. Yeah.
Everything right that would make this a successful trip, but he forgets to adjust their angle of the shields by 1.1 degrees, I think is said. And this causes like a crazy clusterfuck and messes with their solar. I'm guessing those are all solar panels, and
it's a reflection thing to keep the heat off of them. Yeah.
It's a crazy perfect heat shield, essentially. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This is why the Enterprise has 2 people. One to do the navigation and one to do the helm. It's like each one has to point things different directions.
And because he had to override the system to recourse the route, to remap the route, the automatic detection isn't there to adjust the shield form, because we see that later, and the shield takes over the mother computer takes over to protect the ship later, but it's online then. It wasn't online when he was remapping the course. Because
it was basically running on autopilot. It was like we programmed the ship to know what to do, and the moment that they deviate from that, they have to take the ship offline to mess with it and reprogram it. But then it has a conflict of protocol. It wants to keep going on its path, but it also is trying to keep the crew alive.
It should be like your first sign that you probably shouldn't do this thing is if the computer has to be taken offline to do the thing, right?
Right. When you are beyond being able to call back home to get help, to get anything, it's like,
especially since they've already lost one ship and they don't know how. Like, what is the reason for that?
Right.
It could be
that's the other
same
thing. Like, why would
doing.
you go on the same trajectory as the other ship that didn't make it? Like, you're putting yourself in the same danger, right? So I don't feel like they really think through all of those things.
I mean, you say it's hubris. It's more like, Chuck, it's more like saying it's overcompensating for the idea of what their mission is by saving people. One, they're trying to figure out, can we have 2 shots?
Saving people,
Right. It's like, do we have 2 shots at saving this? And who knows what's on, who knows what's going on with the ship?
I think what it betrays is a lack of confidence in the mission itself.
It's doubt.
They leave it to Kappa, and he's like, if he makes that decision, there's enough doubt that it's going to work, right? Because it's all just speculative science.
Right.
There's no precedence for it at all.
No.
If it were me, I'd be like, if one doesn't work, the other won't. That's the way I'd look at it, right? Like, if the first bomb doesn't work, I doubt the second one will, because we have it wrong. But
but that would make for a boring movie.
Right.
Yep. Again, nitpick has to be swept aside from movie to go.
I had to say this too many times, not too many, but enough times to Stephanie while we were watching. I'm like, well, if they did this, because the next one's a big one. One of her major nitpicks in this movie is when they go out to fix the panels or find out what the damage is to the ship. They don't send a robot that doesn't need oxygen, that can just go out and climb the side of the ship and probably...
I don't think they have one.
Well, yeah. I mean, that is the narrative, right? But it's 2057.
I have a bigger nitpick with that scene, I think.
All right, go for it.
Because Captain America
Oh, yeah. I like that.
volunteers Kappa.
You're right. I volunteer Kappa.
But then we later find out that Kappa is the only one who can freaking start the ignition process on the bomb.
Right.
Fair.
So he had no business going outside.
I think Mace is still a little pissed off at that point.
He is, but they're not thinking logically.
No.
Because he thinks logically later about, well, wait a minute, we got to save Kappa because he's the only one that can ignite the bomb. Why the fuck did you send him out into space earlier?
They don't have a robot and they don't have a Spock. Logic does not.
Right. They have no data. They have no Spock.
Yes.
But it is almost like Captain America is the only one who thinks with any sense of reason. So when he says something, they just go with it because when he says, "Well, Kappa can go outside," they're like, "Okay." But it's like probably he was thinking later. It's like probably sweating balls, right? He was got to get Kappa back in here because he's the only one who can fulfill the mission.
Now, fair enough. But like Mace is also the guy who fixes everything on the ship.
It does. I know. That's
So
what I
it's
said.
like
every
you can't lose him either. Like maybe consider Michelle Yeoh, who just takes care of the plants.
Yeah, but that's
send her out
way
there.
back home, though. Like, everyone is kind of integral, except for really, I don't know what Haley does or Harvey.
Harvey is just there for self-preservation.
Yes.
Here's my thing. I'm pretty sure that when you go into space, NASA sends a team of astronauts to space, that everybody is redundant. Right?
It should be.
Everybody can do everybody else's job. Like, that's how you're trained, so that if you do lose one person, there are still like 4 people who can do that job.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly scientist people who aren't trained to fly the space shuttle, or whatever. But yeah, once you're delivered to the International Space Station, you're all redundant at that because those are all scientists doing scientific stuff.
But they're all like also. Yeah, they're all scientists and they're all trained to
work on that.
Everything on the ship.
But on the space shuttle part, I think you get the Air Force guys and then you get the civilians. And those guys are separate, but the Air Force guys should all be redundant.
Right. If they're bringing like extraneous people up there.
Yeah, like I mean,
different.
like when the Challenger had the teacher lady,
the teacher lady fully redundant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
She knew how to fly the fucking space shuttle, Jeff. The teacher,
or maybe she didn't.
She probably
nobody knew how.
She probably had like basic, honestly,
probably had some basic, basic. Like, okay, well, if this happens, you may have to do a thruster thing, like a manual thruster.
I'd like to go back and look at that because it's interesting. I'm sure they wouldn't just send her up there without like a lot.
Well, they have a whole thing called Space Camp. They made a movie about it, in fact, and I always wanted to go there.
And they all ended up in space, and they, because of their space camp training, they were able to get back down to Earth.
Yeah, exactly.
Wild.
All right. Anyway, sorry.
So this is pretty cool, though. Just to mention, like, in order to make the repairs or go check what's going on with the shield, they have to turn the ship to give them shade, which destroys 2 of the communication towers. And one of the communication towers, I don't know how it does this, seems to break through the ship and cause an oxygen leak and kind of destroy their garden. Go ahead,
Here's
Jason.
what I think it is. Because I was watching this intently. It's the shield, when it is in the path of the sun, is destroyed, but it's then like unhinged, but it's sort of on a swivel. So it's rotating in and out of the sun's path, but it's reflecting the sunlight onto the ship when it's at a specific trajectory. And as it, like that arc burns the heat of the sun, the reflection of the sun into the ship. Okay. So it's, again, like something that they did not take account for right?
Well, yeah, because you didn't move the shields. You didn't reposition the deflector shield. I mean, come on, goddammit.
But they could only reposition when they actually realized, yeah, we got to reposition the fields. They only reposition it enough to cause minimal damage.
Yeah,
because they don't need the comms towers
to fix the
shade
mirrors.
so they could get up there,
and shade so they can get just enough shade so they can get up and fix the panels. But yeah, they don't account for the fact that there's like that piece that they destroyed is now like essentially becoming a reflector as it rotates around the ship.
So it's almost like moving a magnifying glass with the sun.
Yeah,
and the plant room is an ant.
And the plant room just happens to be like that part of the ship that it hits every time it comes around, and it burns up the whole plant room. Which I want to know why you need a plant room.
Because it's making oxygen for them.
I know, but and she's talking about how they're building up reserve stores of oxygen. Can't you just put all those reserve stores of oxygen on the ship before you leave?
Well, I guess they could only have room for so much. I don't know.
But she says that, and we've already built up enough reserve stores of oxygen to get us 25% of the way back.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I think we got two things here. I think number one, I think they are trying to figure out like a logical, like, how do you give yourself the air to breathe for this group of people on the
wrong.
ship?
I just don't understand the reason. Yeah,
because they got to have something go wrong.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, because
Murphy's Law has got to have its way.
Yeah, and Murphy's Law is ripping through the ship
John
this
Murphy's
point.
Law.
Yeah. Dale, I thought it was Dale Murphy. Anyway, Dale Murphy's Law is everybody had his glove in the 80s.
It's
all the alarms
Murphy's
start going
Law,
off.
By the way,
all the alarms start going off. There's a fire in the
garden.
The garden, the terrarium or whatever it is, and the computer freaks out.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I got to start moving these shields back, and we got to set the ship back,
or we're all fucked.
Because
basically,
there's a fire on the ship, in the terrarium, or wherever.
So Icarus, she is essentially the opposite of Hal. She is like all about preservation, not all about learning new things.
Yeah, that is very true.
It's like, I got to go back to everything I know, not learning new things today. No, thank you.
And so when that happens, though, what happens is John Murphy says, I have to write this incredible piece of music that will bring tears to everyone's face and will be used in countless trailers till the end of time, while Kanata is out there fixing one of the panels and tells Cillian Murphy to haul ass back to the ship because he's not going to be able to finish the last panel before the heat shield, and he has to fix the heat shield. If they don't fix the heat shield,
everything's over.
Water. Everything's over.
They are literally toast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's called
we're talking about
Sunshine. It's
music.
called Sunshine Adagio in D minor, Kanata's Death Part 2. So it's like a combination of the two pieces, and it's beautiful.
It is.
And Kanata dies. The sun consumes him, and it's spooky, kind of fucked up, and also like amazing when Searle is speaking into his comm.
He just wants to know what Kanata sees.
And he's like, "What do you see?" And he's like begging Kanata in his moment of his death to tell him what he sees. And it's like, whoa, man, that's some heavy shit, right?
Yeah, and I think it's quite one of the better like storytelling elements of this movie, that they're building you up and letting you know that the sun is playing an important role in impacting, because space madness is space madness, right? Sure. They could have just had people go fucking crazy out there for no reason.
Stimpy taught me that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was called Space Madness, right?
Yeah.
Because of that episode. But it is kind of, it's learning you, it's conditioning you that the space is impacting people, or that the sun is impacting people in a certain way, and that Searle, who is the doctor on the fucking ship, is obsessed by it. He's obsessed by what Kaneda sees in there.
Chris Evans has that line where it's like, all I know is that you're the ship psychologist, and I'm pretty sure you're the craziest one here.
Yeah. Well, he's a few days away from, becoming somebody we'll meet later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
Because he's spending so much time in the observation deck that he starts getting a suntan.
Yeah, he's sunburning. He's picking skin off.
Yeah.
His
He's getting lip lesion or lip blisters, and that somebody we meet later, like if you aren't already picking up on that first video of him, you're like, oh, Searle, you're going the wrong way, buddy.
Yep.
So it's really good, like, in informing you about what's coming, I think. Even though you think it's going to be Searle that is the bad guy, right? You kind of have that.
Right. Oh, yeah. He's already been the one to, like, suggest they go to the Icarus One. You know, you half expect him to be like Ash the android by the end of this movie, right?
Yep. 100%. 100%.
Yep.
So Kanata dies. Cillian Murphy's, or Kappa, is able to get back into the airlock. And then they have what happens here? Jeff, you probably remember better than me. I'm bad.
So Mr. Yeah, and Harvey immediately is like star screaming it. It's like, I'm in charge now. It's like, look at me. I'm the second in command, and I don't like. For all I know, this is the first time I've seen him in this movie. I'm like, okay, dude, whatever. It's like Cillian Murphy or Captain America's got my vote. But I mean, hell, even Rose Byrne, she pilots the damn thing. Like, I trust her so much.
Right. Well, important to note here, though, in order to put the fire out in the oxygen garden, Mace orders the computer to release all of the reserve oxygen to make it flame itself out. I can't remember the term, but that's
he basically says it's like it suffocates itself by giving it too much. It basically is overfeeding the fire. It's like a fish in a goldfish.
It's not unlike what they had to do in Sorcerer to put out
dropping the TNT,
the oil fire. Yeah. Which, interestingly enough, was a partial inspiration for this movie. Wages of Fear was,
for this?
I didn't know that, but it makes sense.
Oh my God! Is every movie we're going to cover for the rest of this year going to have something to do with sorcerers?
You kind of have to wonder if Wages of Fear maybe was like, pretty influential.
Well, I mean, it's like I'm also kind of thinking, it's like, you know what? Maybe 2001 had something to do with this movie too.
It's possible it did. Yeah.
Never mind. I had a bad joke there. I won't go with it.
I mean, there's too much sound in space, but otherwise, there's some things that look like 2001 here, and a little bit 2010 too.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then, of course, at this point, Michelle Yeoh, who we haven't really talked much about, she's the biologist on ship, and I get the sense also probably the medic. She's like beside herself. She's distraught at the destruction of her plants, and this is her one job, pretty much, right?
You had one job,
and
she's now expendable.
But Michelle Yeoh's in this movie.
Cast because of her role in Tomorrow Never Dies.
Oh wow,
interesting.
Like Danny Boyle's like, I like her.
You've gotten to bring up Transformers and James Bond now,
and Star Trek.
Jeez.
I mean, where's Godzilla here?
Yeah, we're going to bring up Nick Cage a little later. You think I'm joking, but I'm not.
Oh, and I brought up a whole bunch of comic book movies, so it's like, man, this is.
Jeff can retire after this episode.
Yeah, I'm done.
But now Harvey.
But now they have a new problem, right? Do they have enough oxygen?
Right.
Right. So now it's like, okay, well, at least we can get over to the other Icarus.
We have to go.
We have to go there because, like, we got to salvage it. We got to take what's available.
We got to see if they have oxygen. We got to see what the fuck's going on over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they get over there and they hook up and they basically say, okay, well, who should go over there? Well, Mace is going to go over there because he can try to get the ship running again. Because that was another thing. I thought they also said that maybe they could just go over to, if it's not in too bad of shape, maybe Icarus One will become
potentially
salvageable as a whole.
Well, that was the whole plan. That comes into play later. Like, they are counting on Icarus One being able to fly, which is a big fucking if for a ship that's gone offline, right?
Yeah, right.
Because they need it in order for them to be able to bring it to the sun to do the same ignition sequence if they have to.
Right.
But they also probably now need its oxygen if they're going to survive.
But they definitely do. Yes, they absolutely need the oxygen. That's really the only good reason to go at this point.
Yeah.
Right. And there is a conversation here just prior. Sorry, Jeff.
No, go right ahead.
That Michelle Yeoh has with Mace and Rose Byrne, Cassie. Yeah. Cassie, about the fact that their particular ship only has enough oxygen to get 4 people
back home.
Not even back home, to the sun to complete the mission.
Oh, yeah.
Which it brings into question, like, will we kill people? And one of those people is the dude that made the calculation.
Yeah, Benedict Wong has been basically sedated over his, like, he's distraught.
Because they think he's going to kill himself.
They think he's going to.
Maybe we should let him kill himself.
Right. Yeah, I'd be like, Captain America's like, I don't need Wong. That's the other guy's. That's the other guy's dude. I don't.
Right. This is a very trolley problem.
But they're not there yet. They're not yet there yet. They don't need to make that decision.
They need to.
But
they need
talk
to go,
about it.
They talk about it to set it up for us later. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like this only drives home the fact that they have to go to Icarus One to get the oxygen at the very least, if not the bomb.
Yes. So go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. So Mace, because he can get the ship back online. Harvey, because we'll talk about why he goes later.
Who knows?
Searle goes because was he going because they were going to see if anybody was still alive over there, maybe. And then
they needed an away team.
And then you've got Cillian Murphy, and so they send it's those 4 guys.
Make sure
Kappa's going to test the bomb. Yeah.
Kappa's got to check on the bomb. Harvey goes to check on the oxygen, to check on the green room, the plants. Yeah. And then, so Searle, I think, is just there to find whatever he can find. The crew. Yeah. What happened basically. So they go
he's
over
also the doctor. You're right. He's the like main medic.
Yeah, because he's the one who sedates. Now, I think Michelle Yeoh does have some first aid training, as we'll see when they come back. But yeah, he goes over to see who's alive. So they get over there. The whole place is just quiet. It's got no power. It's full of dust. Like, it's 6.5 years of nothing going on over there.
And it starts doing a thing that I really, really like, that is really unsettling. And when I say it starts doing a thing, I mean Danny Boyle starts doing a thing. He starts flashing these quick images. Every time the away team's flashlight or a bright light comes into the camera, there's a flash of an image. It's probably on screen for half a second.
Yep.
And I couldn't remember if you were gonna know what those were later, so I took pictures of them, and it's like each one is like a frame of the old crew, a different person of the crew in like Hawaiian gear with leis, and it's
their crew picture. It's their crew picture,
and then you see later that it was a group picture. Yeah,
because Icarus 2 has a crew picture very similar to Icarus 1.
What does that add to the movie for you, Jason? I'm curious, because I wasn't sure that I liked it.
It adds an anxiety.
Okay.
There is something there's another penny to drop about why this crew is dead, right?
Fair.
And it also gives me those Event Horizon vibes for big time reels.
That
there.
for sure.
There, I will go ahead and mention my other nitpick and this happens more later, and I feel like it's an editing choice, or maybe I think it's an editing choice because they otherwise cutting it without this together would have been jarring, and maybe it might have been a way to time cut certain things. But there, in the third act in particular, there's a lot of shots of Mercury going across the sun, where I was like, oh, this kind of starting to feel a little cheap. Starting to feel like they didn't have enough money to stitch the two things together. So it was like something would happen, then they would cut to that for like 2 seconds, and then it would go to something else, and it was like I was like, I don't like that editing style. I don't like it.
That might have been a nod to Tarkovsky's Solaris, because Tarkovsky does that quite a bit. He'll break up scenes with
Jeff
with like the celestial space, right? And kind of let you linger on it.
I don't know. I didn't like it in this.
Before we press on, I do want to guess your big one before you say it.
Go for it.
We don't have to do it right now.
Okay.
Well, no,
we're
yet.
Okay. No, it's not yet. We haven't gotten there yet because I haven't said it. So anyway, my two nitpicks are out of the way now.
I will say, Chuck, that if I were to do the little cut scenes differently, I would have, instead of putting in those moments from the picture, I would have put in the moments
from the video.
I would have put in the moments
from the observation
deck.
That's what I would have preferred.
Yeah, because so when they go looking around, so all these things start to happen all at once. Harvey's the only one that really has great news.
Harvey finds life. He finds an overgrown oxygen garden.
Yep.
And he's like, holy shit. And
we got so much oxygen over here.
I mean, Kappa has good news too, but
well, I mean, his is
really
kind of neutral. Like his is neutral. It's like,
no, it's great, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter. The oxygen is more important.
Well, they have another chance. The reason they went in the first place was to get another bomb.
Sure.
I mean, that's why they went in the first place. So that's
but now
great
they can
news
now they
them.
can actually survive the trip home, though, right?
Yes,
right.
So like, because they're gonna deliver the payload no matter what. Right.
At this point, it's too late.
However it's going to be, they're going to do it. Right. It's staying in with their mission, and they know.
And if they die, they die. They would like to get home, but
the oxygen allows them to actually potentially survive the ordeal. Yeah.
Right. So but bad news starts to come in the form of Mace.
But I should mention too that they need the oxygen just to get to the sun at this point.
Right.
Like they could start.
Unless
they
they
do
do
guys.
something about it.
Unless
They
do something about it, which they've discussed. But it's kind of like a dual purpose now. It's
Right.
Yeah.
So so Mace discovers that the ship's not just offline; it's been sabotaged.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And he also finds an incredibly creepy video message from the lawnmower man. While
Pinbacker, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like the lawnmower man.
Who you can't really see, right? Like in the picture, but you can tell he's a little crusty like Cyril is, or more crusty than Cyril is.
Right.
So you start to piece those things together.
Yeah, and Cyril goes into the observation deck and discovers the rest of the crew is basically just a bunch of bacon, a bunch of burnt up bacon in there.
Right. And I think this is really cool. Like I talk about mirrors a lot in movies, and I'm seeing them so much more than I used to. Maybe it's because I just pay attention more. But this is like at the same point in the movie, the opposite of when they're viewing Mercury.
Yeah.
All together on the bench. These people are all toasted. Mm-hmm. Like they went into the observation room, opened up the filters, and just and died.
I should mention too.
Seemingly together. Sorry.
Seemingly together. Yes.
Yeah.
The video that was sent by Pinbacker, the captain of Icarus One, he goes on a tirade about the fact that their mission is an opposition to God.
Yes.
And that humanity needs to go to heaven. and he's obviously insane. But
Yes.
you're like, whoa. So, but it's
I like that Chris Evans like, I didn't understand any of that. Anybody else get anything? And they're like, I don't know, whatever. And then they just go back.
But yeah, when they go in the observation room and it's just the dust forms of the crew, it really lets the mind wander, doesn't it? Like imagining what brought them to that point. Because originally it was an asteroid shower that disabled the Icarus one. And Pinbacker, before he goes crazy in his transmission, talks about how beautiful that looked. He's sending a mission to Moonbase, and he says, like, I can't lie to you. I watched it from the observation deck. It was beautiful. The source of their ship's destruction, essentially, or what at least took them offline.
Which it would look pretty cool because I mean that stuff is getting burnt up as it's flying in towards them. Yeah, that would look probably pretty cool.
So, but it's also kind of an early hint of his madness too, right? But anyway, what happens to get? Do they become his disciples? Does he corral them in there?
I think he corralled them.
My guess is they were all in there to see something, and he opened the filter without their knowledge.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
he is HAL 9000 in this in this reference here.
What's annoying about this too, and I don't know that this would be my biggest gripe because I just thought of it, is that they could have counted the bodies in there. They know how many people are on Icarus 1. They could have determined, like, hey, there's only 7 people here, or hey,
well, maybe they weren't all put in there at the same time, and some people are just like molehills, as opposed to actually being figure shaped.
That's a good nitpick, though, because that's pretty important to know. Like, did we account for all of the crew? Yeah.
I mean, I kind of also will also kind of. I'll also kind of give them a little bit of grace there because they've got bigger fish to fry. They're alive right now, and they've got to try to figure out how to stay alive.
Well, and it's at this point, too, that the airlock gets fucking destroyed.
So the ship shimmies, and it's like, what the hell happened? And the two ships rip apart.
And Searle makes the point, too, that the only reason that they're not incinerated in the same way in the observation deck is because the shield of the Icarus II is overlapped at that place. So it's actually
that is a cool image of the two sun, like because they're seeing the two reflections of the sun merge together.
So all right, that's fair. Like there's a lot of shit going on, right?
Yeah, and then so the two ships rip apart through the airlock, through the docking, and so at this point, like Captain America's on it. He's like, "Sorry, everybody, but this is the guy who has to go back." And he's like, you know what? I'm going to start tearing up the walls. We might survive, but fucking Harvey.
They take the insulation out and wrap it around themselves.
Yeah. But Harvey is
fake Bon Jovi from Event Horizon has got to be expelled from one ship to the other.
So Harvey
Jack Noseworthy is totally fake Bon Jovi.
But Harvey starts flipping out about he goes, I'm the captain. I should be the one. It's like, no. Sorry, you took on the responsibility. You go down. Sorry. I mean, it's like, you got to do what Kaneda did, or you got to do what Mace is saying, which is wrap yourself up and hope you make it.
Mm-hmm. Well, but there's another important thing here. Searle is like, hey, because the ship has no power, someone has to manually operate this door.
Yep.
So the idea is when the door opens, the pressure is going to shoot them from one airlock to the other airlock. And
it's up to Rose Byrne to line them up perfectly.
Yeah, she has to line them up, and then Kappa has to be in the suit because he's the most important guy to save civilization, right? Which is much bigger than all of them. Yep. And the other two are going to hug his arms and be like, I hope I make it in with you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Harvey. I'm thankful that you got bucked out.
Yeah, I'm not
dickhead.
The movie didn't care much about him, and
it
got rid of him pretty spectacularly.
I wish.
He goes poof.
He's like, sorry, you're the only non-A-lister in this cast.
Yeah, sorry, Troy Garrity, whoever you are.
I wish you cared more about the people that die in this movie than you do, but maybe that would be too much because of all the death in this movie.
Well, I think Kanata's death hits pretty hard.
It does.
But then the
mostly
rest just
because of the
come Fast
music.
and Furious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you're right. You haven't even really gotten to know Kanata when he dies. You barely met him. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
you really, it really kind of comes down to there being 5 people that you end up really kind of caring about. With Searle kind of being the one
4
you're
for
kind of
normal
set
people, 5 for Jeff because of Mace. Captain
Well,
America.
I mean,
I'm joking.
No, well, Searle is the odd one out. He's the one who's kind of set up at the
Yes.
beginning that seemingly is going to be super duper important, but he's the one who ends up sacrificing himself to get to try to get the other 3 back to Icarus too, because he decides to operate the door. And that leaves him behind. So
I think it's a little self-serving for him too.
maybe a little bit like he's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go experience what these guys did.
Yeah,
because
I'm
the
gonna go see
moment
what
that
Kanata saw.
yeah, because basically when Cassie moves the ship away, and basically everybody says their goodbye to Searle. I mean, at that point, it's
He's
Toast
toasted
City.
in the observation room.
Yeah, and yeah, all that sunlight and everything, like it causes people to kind of ghost, like a lot of light would in that. So that's kind of cool how they do that.
Yeah.
In terms of like how it just messes up the image basically. But yeah, so Harvey is the next one to go, and he's not one of the 5 important people that you care about. Like in the people you get to know the best. He flies off of Kappa, and ends up cutting his arm off, which then freezes him, which then
Well, I think he froze and his arm broke off because he hit
that's
something.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he goes poof.
Yeah.
Because the sun just burns him to death.
It's actually really cool.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, so now we're basically left with the 4 main people that we know best, which is Michelle Yeoh, Chris Evans, Cillian Murphy, and Rose Byrne, who apparently we also find out that Cillian Murphy and Rose Byrne are a couple. And they both
They're
have
intimate, at least.
they're intimate, and they both have the same basic dream of either falling into or touching the sun.
Right.
So they are starting to get kind of affected by what they're dealing with.
Space
Yeah, maybe they shouldn't have like put the whole like Icarus thing in all these people's heads, right? From the start. Like that's probably not the greatest. It's probably not the greatest. Like
Icarus doesn't survive his trip to the sun.
He sure doesn't. In fact, there's a whole the whole point of the tale is don't fly too close to it, right?
I mean, you might have better luck calling the ship's Kid Icarus, because at least then you win in the end. You know,
You did.
Yeah, I love Kid Icarus so much. Anyway,
I don't think I ever beat that game.
oh, I have many times.
I did on the Game Boy, but not on the yeah.
But so anyway, so they get back over. I mean, like Mace does get his hand frozen a little bit, but seems like that gets taken care of. They warm him back up. Kappa is fine. Everything is great. Now they're down to 4 people. So that was they still have Benedict Wong, which like Mace decides, well, we kind of need him to go, and it's like Cassie gets outvoted 3-1.
She doesn't even vote, so they do have a unanimous decision.
Right.
She just doesn't partake.
For sure.
Even though technically she does, but for her own peace of mind, she doesn't.
Right. And Mace is like, then fine, I'll deal with it.
It's like you want you're asking for my permission. Well, you can't have it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You're asking for my vote. You can't have it. Not my permission.
Well, I think she does actually say permission, but maybe not. I don't know.
I think she says vote. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. It's it's the same
this
thing.
Context.
Yeah.
So this is important, right? Because they can still have 4 people and enough oxygen to make it to the sun, which makes
it's a one-way trip at this point, but they would have enough. Yeah,
they would have enough to save humanity, basically, if it works.
Yep.
And that makes Benedict Trey. This is
Trey,
yeah.
Makes Trey expendable, and they get the 3 votes, and then the 1 abstain, and Mace is like, "I'll fucking take care of it." He goes and grabs a knife, and
he doesn't just go. He doesn't just go and grab a knife. He goes and grabs Chekhov's scalpel.
Yes, when 2 are missing, 2 as well.
Do we talk about Searle's death too? Do we talk about that? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, he went to go see what Kaneda saw.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he relished in the sun.
Mm-hmm. He tells Capo before he leaves, before they go through the airlock, "We're only stardust."
We're only stardust. Yes, which is a theme when they're on there, like dust is 80% human skin and blah, blah, blah. But yes, when Mace goes to kill Trey, he's already dead, seemingly having killed himself.
I like what Rose Byrne Cassie says to Mace before he does it. She's like, find a kindness.
Yeah, make it easy.
Make it easy. Find a kindness. It's sweet. Sad, but it's like, we're humans here, right? This is a utilitarian act, but
well, she kind of is the whole, like, that is kind of her whole thing, right? She's probably the most human of all. I mean, like, she is a little bit quicker on her feet than a lot of the other guys, because like she has no problem burning out the communication, because it's like, that's a problem we can't worry about how to walk around. We got to do it now, and when we want to use it, we'll figure it out later. So she has a little bit more humanity, a little bit. She's less scientific in terms of the way she thinks about things.
Yes, she thinks a little bit with her heart, right?
Yeah. Yes. Whereas Mace is not scientific, but he is very logical. He's an
engineer.
He's the Spock of the group, right? He's like, for sure, it's unwise to move off of our path here. Yeah.
God, you're making him Spock now? Jesus, elevating this man.
Well, we said earlier that there wasn't a Spock, but
or Data.
Yeah.
But yes, to what you were saying, Chuck, Trey has killed himself. So problem solved.
We believe he's killed himself.
That is true, but it does look like his wrists are slit.
He is, because Pinbacker is fooled by that later.
Oh yeah.
Well, he's fooled by a shadow. I guess that could be debatable.
Yeah. So that gets us to our twist here.
Herein lies the coolest scene and some bullshit. Right?
Yeah.
Because it really is some bullshit.
Some cool bullshit.
It's some cool bullshit, because Kappa is, I can't remember where he is, but he's telling the Icarus computer, like, hey,
the Icarus computer says you're dying.
You're dying.
And you think, like, we got a HAL 9000 problem. But no.
But he's like, no, we're fine. Or whatever,
He's like, we're fine. Yeah. We know we're going to die. We just want to complete the mission. And the computer's like, well, you don't have enough oxygen. In 12 hours, you're going to do this. In 14 hours, whatever she says.
Well, basically, in 12 hours, you will basically be incapacitated. In 14 hours, you'll be dead.
Yep.
And you're not going to get to the sun.
You need 16 hours or something.
Or 19 hours or something like that. Yeah, it's less than a day from the sun. Yeah.
She's like, you're not going to complete the mission.
And he's like, well, there's only 4 of us. That's kind of wrong. And she's like,
correct. 4 people could survive.
Right. But there's 5 of you.
But there's 5 of you. He's like, no, there are not. He's like, yeah. She's like, yes, there is. There's 5 people.
It's like, no, yes.
And then he's like, well, where is the 5th crew member? And she says, in the observation deck.
Which is really fucking cool.
It is cool. It's chilling.
But how the fuck did Pinbacker, as we find out, is in the observation deck, make it onto the goddamn ship?
Oh, I think
through the airlock.
No, but he crossed before he blew
crossed and then blew it up.
Yeah.
He scurries over because, by the way, he's also doing all this naked. So good on him, I guess.
But then Icarus
naked and
would
like
have
scarred.
Yeah, he's like flopping in the wind
The
there.
sun is his tunic. Yeah.
I don't know about all this. So
No,
maybe I don't know Jeff's big gripe.
So here it is. I pretty much hate the third act. This is the third act wrecks this. Yeah, it was scary enough for an hour and 15 minutes. Like all of this existential crisis stuff on a like brainy kind of intelligent level had me on edge from the very beginning. From the very beginning of this movie, the slasher element kind of made this movie generic.
I think it kind of betrays the metaphysical weight.
Yeah, it totally does warn you, but at the same time, it's like it takes it from an extremely smart movie to kind of a dumb movie.
Yeah,
and if it was a dumb movie from the beginning, like Event Horizon, I'm on board. If it's smart all the way through, I'm on board. But the mix,
really like Event Horizon.
I do too, but it is a dumb movie.
It is dumb.
It's super dumb, but it's got all the gore. It's Hellraiser in space. It's the real Hellraiser in space. Because the Hellraiser in space wasn't that good. But it's so it's like
I first remember in that great moment. He also says, "My God, Pinbacker." So,
yeah. It's like
it's okay though at this moment. Okay. I feel like,
but I mean, like, but it just when it speeds to the end by use of a slasher movie element,
there are 35 minutes
betrayed
left.
The movie. Yeah,
there's like 35 minutes left, and it becomes a mini slasher film. And I knew specifically you, Jeff, that might be. You're kind of like, I can't really get on board with that, right? I knew you wouldn't like that. I don't know if I really like it, to be quite honest.
Chuck,
and a lot of critics didn't like it.
I'm okay with it because I'm
at peace with it.
I felt it coming. Like I didn't think if they didn't set up Searle and the whole sun, the way it impacts you, and then the video, I'm like, this is where this is going.
Well,
so
I mean,
felt
you can
adequately warned.
You can set that up. I mean, you can be warned about it, but still not like it. Sure, I knew it was coming, and I was like, I sure hope it doesn't really go this direction, or at least if it goes this direction, what's going to be the intelligence level of this direction, right?
Yeah.
But okay, I don't want to argue with you because you like what you like, you dislike what you dislike.
No, go right ahead though.
But the alternative is 30 minutes at the end of Armageddon.
Sure.
Where we have heroes doing hero things. Like I prefer this.
And maybe there is just not a suitable way to end this movie.
Sure.
That's okay too.
I agree, Chuck.
Again, the movie is still.
I do prefer what we got to probably what would be conventionally written. Yeah.
Oh, yes. I mean, conventionally written would also betray the intelligence of what this movie is trying to do psychologically, right? Maybe there just isn't a way to bring this movie in for a landing. As it turns out, there is no way for the ship to come in for a landing. So maybe it's only right, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this is A+. Fuck it, A+. This movie's A+.
I mean, I think it's enjoyable.
I just metaphysically worked my way into giving this movie a perfect score.
I think it's enjoyable all the way through, and I get the criticism.
It's enjoyable, but
I get the criticism you're giving it 100%. But without the science leading the way, like the whole movie, I'm like, something else is at play here, and I guess I don't have to give it a pass, obviously. But I liked it.
That's fine. I mean, that's why I want you guys to see In a Violent Nature. Because
I want to see that. Yeah.
Because I ended up not liking it for a very big reason, which I know is not really the purpose. It's like something that the movie wasn't trying to fix, but it was a big problem that I had that I would love for you guys to talk to me about that. Just because I want to be able to talk it through.
I'll watch it soon.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Let's do it.
I want to be able to talk it through with somebody, because there is stuff in it that I like what it's doing, much like this. Whereas this movie, I think, is far more successful at hitting the right notes. But yeah, so anyway,
Let's land
I've
this
said,
movie.
let's land it. Let's talk about the last
Let's
act.
ignite the bomb on the sun, guys. Let's do it.
So Pinbacker is now loose on Icarus 2.
Which, by the way, Pinbacker, reference to Dark Star.
Yeah.
John Carpenter's Dark Star is Dan O'Bannon's character in Dark Star.
His name was Pinbacker. I was thinking Hellraiser
It was Pinback.
because of Pinhead.
Pinback. Yeah.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. Kappa gets himself locked in the airlock, right, by Pinbacker because he's running away from him after he discovers him.
Ooh, real quick, one other influence, Mark Strong's look. This is really kind of cool. It's his burns are inspired by Niki Lauda, who got burned up in a real bad F1 accident when he and no, I can't think of the guy's name. But anyway, the movie that Chris Hemsworth was in about he played the British guy, and Niki Lauda was was played by the guy who was
Ford versus Ferrari.
No,
I know that's not it.
no. But anyway, that's kind of cool. That it's like there is some sense of what would happen to your skin and how it would look when it's really, really, truly, basically set on fire.
Yeah, I wish we got a more like direct look at Pinbacker.
I didn't like the blur effect.
Yeah.
That they did on him for the whole rest of the movie.
I just figured it was like, well, we just really liked the Lawnmower Man sequence on the video on the video phone.
It just felt like they were doing that phasing you were talking about with Searle when he was in the sun and he was
the
like
ghosting,
a constant image. They did it with him, and I was like, let me see the evil here, please, like clearly. But yeah, so we have Kappa locked in the airlock. We have.
And he's injured. He's pretty badly injured. His stomach's been slashed.
He got slashed through the chest or stomach, yes, for sure.
Put on a compression vest to help stop the bleeding.
And we have Heart, Corazon, Michelle Yeoh, who finds a mini plant growing in the ashes, and she's admiring that when Pinbacker stabs her through the back
with the electronic, with the electric scalpel,
turkey cutter.
Yeah, it's very Michael Myers
turkey cutter,
and that was when I was like, that was when I was like, oh, we're in for it now.
Yeah. I mean, we were, and I loved it. Then we have Pinbacker, to note, had pulled Icarus's mainframe out of the coolant system, which we had seen Mace working on earlier. That's kind of his job. And
he shuts off all the lights. That's when.
I mean, when the computer comes out, it powers down to its lowest running capacity, right?
Yeah, and I think Mace was the one who's like, is anybody else noticing that basically Icarus is dead at this moment?
Right. And somehow or another, Mace is able to communicate with Kappa like, hey, dude.
It was through a personalized headset. Yeah.
The radio.
He's like, get on the fucking headset that's in the Among Us suit on the wall there.
Yeah. It's like he's going to stab somebody in the back.
Yeah. And they communicate. Kappa tells him that, like, hey, the computer's been lifted out of the water or the coolant. So Mace goes to try to fix
outside the coolant. He's got. I've got to fix that. If it doesn't fix that, nothing works.
So thankfully, Rose Byrne is
James Hunt. That's the guy's name. The F1 guy that Niki Lauda was.
Thank you.
Sorry. I had to do it, Dad. That's for you because I know you're screaming at me right now while you're listening to this episode. I got it. It's James Hunt.
Hi, Dennis. But thankfully, Rose Byrne is given Pinbacker the runaround. It gives Mace time to try to fix the three, coolant
mainframes.
or the mainframes that came out of the water.
Yeah, got to put the lotion in the basket.
Yep. Yes, but then one of them catches his leg, and he's like, "Oh." Why'd you slice off my leg?
And he's communicating to Kappa in his dying breath. He's like, you gotta finish this.
You got to blow it
Like,
up.
He's like, when I'm in the airlock, he's like, I don't care how you do it, just do it.
Fucking figure it out.
Fucking figure it out. Use your big brain, Brett.
And it's cool how he figures it out. I don't know if it'd work, but he uses the suit's blowtorch, rips a hole in the door, a pinhole, and then opens the airlock, and the pressure
Decompressurizes.
Decompressurizes and fucking shoots the door out. I think no matter how many belts he puts around his arms, he's gone, but
Probably.
Yeah, but he's
a little bit. This is a little bit
Alien?
aliens. Yeah,
Aliens.
100%. Yeah.
She would have been smoked too.
Yep.
Well, it's also a little bit, isn't it also a little bit resurrection too with the.
And a little bit rock and roll.
Yeah. Isn't it a little bit alien resurrection?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Although that one might be actually a little more realistic in some ways because of how the
Sucks that
clone alien gets it.
yeah,
Anyway,
sucks that fucking skull right
right
out.
out of that little hole.
Anyway, blowing it out technically, but whatever.
Right, but we should also mention Mace tells Kappa that he's going to have to manually disengage the payload from the ship and then get on the ship and then ignite the bomb. So he's going to have to ride. He's going to have to Slim Pickens.
Oh boy, is he going to? I would have. If I'm okay, like seriously, if I'm in this position that I have to go and either shut down or
it's the only way to go, right?
I'm riding that fucker down like a bull.
The only other option in my mind is Ib's observation room, right? That's the only other option in my mind is either ride it like some Pickens down.
I'm not going to suffocate. I'm going to go out
or watch it at full tilt boogie from the observation deck. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not suffocating to death. I am. Blow me up, son.
But the observation deck isn't even an option because he has to be on the payload in order to start the sequence.
Yep.
There's no remote shit happening here.
So now we really kind of end up like this is like, I don't know how exactly they got here. There's some things, again, some editing things were a little wonky here in this final act.
The first time I watched this in the theater, I had about a little more than half a bottle of wine because I went up to the Keystone Arts.
How do you remember this shit?
And that was the first time. That's the first theater in the city. Well, not the first one in the city, but it was the only one in the city at the time because the Hollywood Bar and Film Works had closed. Where you can, get something to drink while you watch the movie. And I got a bottle of wine. And yeah, I saw this solo, me and a bottle of wine. Like talk about sad sack bullshit, right? But I was the whole third act was happening, and then with the blurry face, Pinbacker, and then some of the wonky editing, and it really moved rushing through the third act. I was like, am I drunk? I really thought I might have had way too much wine. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so because all of a sudden, so Cassie gets chased by Pinbacker, but then she just kind of ends up in a slumped over heap in this gigantic room, which we find out is the payload.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She just ends up there somehow.
She just ends up there, and it's we don't know if she's dead. She's just kind of hunched over. She's not dead, as we find out, because then Pinbacker attacks Kappa, and he's about to drop him off this cliff, which ends up not being really a cliff.
It's just a
gravity.
It's kind of weird here.
Gravity is all messed up. The camera angle's all messed up. The editing's wonky. I'm constantly watching Mercury pass over the sun. I'm like, what's going?
Well, the
sun,
payload
take
is now
me
moving.
now. So I go outside and it's not doing the job.
The payload is now moving.
It could be the payload.
The ignition sequence hasn't started yet, but it's tilting.
Whatever it is something is moving in front of the sun all the time.
It's been released from the ship. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do feel like
stabilizer anymore.
And that's the whole point. He's got to start the ignition sequence, but that also has to that ignition sequence starts the thrusters.
But they also had to rip Pinbacker's arm off.
They have to do.
Oh, the skin. Yeah, it takes the skin right
Oh
off.
yeah, that's really good. So they deglove his whole arm. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
nasty. Really nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Cassie dies, and that's kind of a bummer. I
Yeah,
do
we
like
Rose Byrne.
I like Rose Byrne quite a bit.
Everyone dies.
Everyone dies, but like Rose Byrne got it pretty bad. Like she got killed as opposed to just dying in an explosion.
Yeah,
Just
she doesn't get to like be in Yellowstone National Park like Woody Harrelson in 2012 when just the super volcano goes off and he just lets it take him. That's a bad movie, but that scene is funny.
which movie?
2012.
2012,
Oh,
Nolan
yeah.
Emmerich, a disaster movie. Yeah,
Remember that movie Volcano with
yeah, with Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy
Remember
Lee
that
Jones?
movie,
And then there was the
Towering
competing
Inferno?
movie. There was a competing movie that came out around
Dante
the same
Speak.
time. Dante Speak
Yeah.
with
Pierce Brosnan and Linda Hamilton,
yeah.
Anyway,
I remember the like those kind of movies, which I can't remember. The disaster movies used to come out in pairs always.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
a lot.
Deep Impact and Armageddon.
Impact and Armageddon. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was another.
Twister didn't have one though, did it?
Not for 30 years later when Twisters came out.
Well, that doesn't count.
I know,
like
I
it
know.
would have had.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. I don't think it did.
Well, and then the asylum was like, well, we can't ever let this not happen ever again. So here we go.
Yeah.
What you got? We're going to do it.
Wait, is that Asylum? Is Sharknado?
Yes,
Asylum?
Sharknado is
Okay.
Asylum.
All right. So
yeah.
Also,
Anyway,
Deep Impact far superior to Armageddon. Far
yeah.
superior.
agree.
yeah, Deep Impact did not have Roger Ebert say, "I hated this movie."
Yet Armageddon is somehow in the Criterion Collection. I'll never understand it.
Early one
Bruce
too, no
Willis.
less. Yeah. Anyway, so basically, so time is getting all screwed up too because sometimes time stops, sometimes it speeds up, sometimes it slows down.
Is
Cillian
that
Murphy
what was happening?
I don't know, all sorts of stuff was happening. But anyway, but Cillian Murphy's like, hey, I'm going to touch the sun, and so then we go to Earth.
At this point, someone in the bottom left corner pops up and is like, "So in this scene, what we were doing?"
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Susan's laughing at a raging Jay. That's great.
Oh man, I will say it did ratchet up the tension a little bit watching the movie. It's like, at any time is this going to happen? Yeah.
So this is interesting though. Like we do, like Jeff has started to mention his sister and her children go up to watch the sunrise. And,
Well, no, they're just out on the frozen Earth, like building a snowman. That's all they're
yeah,
doing.
but they're in Alaska. Well, I
no,
don't
they're
know
in
where they're at.
they're in Sydney.
Either way, it should be the sunrise that they're going to look at, even though the sun is kind of out already.
I thought it was the sunset that they were.
Well, it doesn't really matter. The sun is out, and the sun is they're still orbiting like they would any other thing, like the sun any other day. It's
So I
just-
guess
the sun is dim.
given what you're saying, Jason, the fact that the sun does wash over them in a brighter effect means they were successful.
Right, because
Yes.
it takes 8 minutes for the light of the sun to reach the surface of the earth. And that was his whole point of his message. He's like, and if it's a particularly sunny day, you'll know that we succeeded.
Right.
And that's exactly what happens. Yeah.
For some reason, I put myself in the mindset of they're in a 24-hour sunlight area, and this is when the sun is.
No, I mean that's just what it would look like if they were there.
It
But
was
no,
probably
they were
just
they
a
were
normal day. Yeah.
they were in Sydney because the opera house is off in the distance.
Yeah, and that just kind of
I
hammered
didn't
home
notice
the how dire it is, right?
Yeah,
Is why
because-
it's like
yeah, because, like,
we're in
there's
we're in
so
the far
much
southern
snow.
hemisphere and it's covered in snow. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so
guys are
much
so
snow.
smart.
It actually looks like they're like feet off of the ground on the snow, and it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
icy snow. So it's like, yeah, the Earth is like super cold.
Yeah, it's all about to melt a lot.
Right.
I mean, I knew that-
shit. Now it's gonna. Nobody better have any homes on the beach. They're fucked.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully they were prepared for that happy eventuality.
Possibility, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good for them. They all died.
Earth lives.
Yeah, the Earth lives. As many issues as we've discussed and new issues I have with this because of what you guys have said. I really like.
I do like this movie. Yeah,
I do too.
I ain't got no beef with this movie. Yeah, I mean, I do have beef, but nothing that's going to affect me ever saying maybe I'll watch that again sometime.
The beef is just something you'd add to your sandwich and be like, "This is even better now."
I mean, yeah, maybe you know what? Maybe I put a topping on my sandwich that in the end isn't perfect, but you know what? I ate the sandwich. I like the sandwich. I'll probably have the sandwich again.
Right. Yes, you will.
I want to mention something.
Please do.
Please do.
Nick Cage,
this movie, yes.
Yeah, you promised Nick Cage.
I promised Nick Cage. So, do the two of you remember the movie Kick-Ass?
Oh, absolutely.
Of course.
Yes.
The movie Kick-Ass. Pretty good movie.
Chloe Grace Moretz.
John
yeah,
Murphy.
little kid.
Yeah. The Hit Girl, right? Was that what it was?
Hit Girl.
Hit Girl. Yeah.
John Murphy contributed to the score. What he contributed to the score were variations of that song. The
Kanada's Death.
The Adagio in D minor, yeah. Kanada's Death. And it's in the sequence, probably the best Nick Cage moment in Kick-Ass, where he has to rescue Hit Girl, right? His daughter.
Yeah.
And he does that insane scream where he's like, "Take cover, child!
Yes.
Now switch to kryptonite!" That is happening during the swell of that song from Sunshine. Yeah.
That's
wonderful.
Oh, that's crazy.
Absolutely. So go back and watch Kick-Ass and think of Sunshine.
Well, the girl that Kick-Ass likes, because I was just thinking about Kick-Ass, because the girl he likes and that he ends up kind of hooking up with, she was in The Ward, which I just recently watched for a review on B-Movie.
Oh, interesting. I haven't
John
seen
Carpenter's
that
last.
since it was in the theaters, probably.
I actually kind of like that movie.
I don't remember hating it. I don't remember loving it.
I kind of liked it. Anyway, so yeah, when I was like, this girl looks familiar, and I looked, it's like, oh, okay, yeah.
Also, contributors to the score of Sunshine was the band Underworld. Pretty popular band. They also have connections to Danny Boyle because I think they contributed music to this Trainspotting soundtrack as well.
Yes.
If I remember correctly.
I think that's accurate.
Yeah. Of course, John Murphy also wrote all of the music in 28 Days Later. That sounds like Godspeed You Black Emperor. It's like,
yep.
No, they do use a Godspeed You Black Emperor song in that movie, but all the other stuff is made
written
to
around
sound like Godspeed You Black Emperor.
Yes, it's written around that track,
Yep.
You know, this movie was kind of missing somebody coming up out of a toilet.
Actually, that moment I was reading on the Wikipedia page was sort of that thematic moment. The thematic moment of this movie is Pinbacker. And that's kind of the same thematic moment of that break in reality.
Are we talking about Ghoulies?
We're talking about
Trainspotting.
I know.
Yeah.
Wait, wait, Ewan McGregor was in
Goonies.
Ghoulies?
I thought you said Goonies.
No, Ghoulies.
Ghoulies. I get you.
Ewan McGregor is one of the Ghoulies.
Sorry for deep cutting you like 3 under Gremlins on that one.
Yeah. Anyway, I like this movie. I'm glad you picked it, Chuck.
Me too. I've been wanting to watch it again.
Yeah, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's a heck of a watch, and it does make you think about a lot of stuff.
I think it's a good start to this month of sci-fi where we're going to have actually...
Oh, we're going to have lots to talk about and think about.
Existential as fuck over the next few weeks, yeah.
But one other fun one, which is kind of existential too, I guess, in a way, if I'm remembering. What is next week, Jeff?
It's the Midnight Special.
Okay, yes, that's the kind of fun one that's coming.
Yeah,
I didn't know if it was next or after.
I mean, I don't know how a variety show on TV adapts to a sci-fi movie, but here we go.
You're gonna
Here we
find
go.
out.
I'm glad that when I said that in our chat that you guys got what I was saying.
I knew.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was like, when's a solid gold movie?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yes, this is our first Jeff Nichols. So was this our first Danny Boyle?
Yes.
Huh.
I believe it is.
Wild. And we've got our first Jeff Nichols next week. I really like Jeff Nichols a lot. He makes some pretty good movies.
He's got a good one out right now.
Yeah,
Midnight
I haven't
Special.
seen that one yet, but I've seen everything else, and it's all real good.
I think that'll be the next fun one. That'll be the fun one of the month, I think. But
It's still pretty serious. It's got a serious tone to it. Yeah.
But it is like that shit that we like, Jason, the kind of Amblin, Kids in Trouble.
Oh, for sure. It's very heavily Amblin influenced. Yeah. Yep.
But anyway, go ahead, Jeff.
Sweet. Yeah. So, yeah, next week on August 14th, we have Midnight Special that continues our sci-fi out of this world month. And then we're going to get heavy after that, I think. I think we're going to get real heavy after that.
I'm still trying to figure out how we're going to cover 2001 and 2010 in the same episode, but we're going to try. We're going to try.
Spoiler alert.
We talked about that last week. Anyway,
you can look on Facebook and see all the.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, none of it's a surprise.
So anyway, so that is get over to filmseizure.com. That's where you can hear the new episodes every Wednesday of Film Seizure. You can also find out where you can follow us on social media, where you can subscribe to us on various podcast sites. In addition to that, on Monday, I have a new episode of Monster Mondays, and it's the big one. I'm doing a whole, kind of tying together that whole sci-fi thing. I'm doing all the Borg episodes of Next Generation. And it's the big one, the best of both worlds.
Oh, yeah.
It's about as good as Next Gen, or as good as Star Trek on TV ever got, pretty much. So look for that. That is this upcoming Monday, same place, filmseizure.com. This upcoming Friday on my website, bmovieanima.com, I have a review of Brain of Blood. Al Adamson.
Oh, no.
Damn it, Al Adamson.
Yeah. I've got a copy of that somewhere.
Yeah, oh boy, it's something. It is something.
That's a B movie anima, not Monster Mondays.
No, yeah, that's B movie anima. Anyway, so that's Friday morning, bmovieanima.com. Saturday evening, you can catch a new episode of B Movie Anima, the series, and it's a good one. Warlords of the 21st Century, better known as Battle Truck, starring Michael Beck.
Better known by who as Battle Truck?
By the rest of the world. It was only released here in the United States as Warlords of the 21st Century.
Fair.
It's a pretty good Mad Max ripoff. I recommend it.
It's really fun.
Recommend. Anyway, so that's what's coming up. I'm gonna go to the observation deck and burn my balls off. I'm Jeff Arbuckle.
Chuck Moore.
I was going to do a whole, I'm going to switch to kryptonite. I guess I just did it, but you've been listening to Film Seizure.